Hello, welcome to Propel Pittsburgh. We are a TV show that highlights the stories of local entrepreneurs and business owners. And we do this so that you can understand their why, learn a little bit more about them, get a personal look into their business, along with learn more about them personally, and help us to support these business owners and get the word out about them. So, this TV show will be streaming on YouTube through Bethel Park TV, along with our Facebook page, Propel Pittsburgh. So we encourage you to share this and help us build our viewership and also support this business owner that we're interviewing today. So today we are interviewing Barbara Klein.
It's the best you dating and life coaching.
And I'm glad you brought that up because you do have a lengthy title, but it really covers some important things about you. Because I'm learning that most people think you're a dating service, and you're not a dating service, or a matchmaker. You're not a matchmaker, but you are more of a life coach that helps people find their perfect match by identifying the type of person they are so that they can go out and look for the perfect person. Is that correct?
In a nutshell, yes.
Okay, so tell us more exactly.
Sure. So I am a dating and life coach. And what that means is that I help people who are single, divorced, widowed, or never been married at all to understand that they bring great value to a relationship. And it's important for them to recognize their value, as well as for them to be able to really love themselves and know who they truly are. When a person has clarity about that, they show up differently when they meet other people. And once a person has clarified what they're really looking for out there, whether they're just looking for a relationship or marriage or some type of connection to another person, and they get clarity about who they're trying to attract, then that's when things really start to shift and so forth.
That's amazing. And I'm sure that really eliminates a lot of stress in trying to find someone, wasted time and energy. I mean, so that's a great service that you're providing, which is much different than when I was dating because we didn't have a lot of options. You kind of went to the local bar and hoped that your Prince Charming was hanging out in the bar, which, in my case, it wasn't, because I don't like that, that wasn't the place to find my Prince Charming. But yeah, I'm glad you provide that insight for people. So, so what do you see that most people are struggling with now? We mentioned that things are different now in the dating world. Give us some insight on how things are different and what you see most often people struggle with.
Sure. So in our age category, there were no online options. Computers really were not part of our time frame, when we were in high school and college. So we just met people organically, be it somebody from school, somebody at a party, like you said, going out with your friends to the local watering hole, as they call it, and so forth. Or maybe you were, bike riding or taking a walk, or, in the grocery store, or some place where all of a sudden this person appeared and the two of you had some attraction and a conversation started. These days, people go online. So there's online modes as well as apps for dating. And there are a variety of them. Some are better than others. And depending on where a person lives and the volume of people that are out there looking for connection will depend on what website ends up working best. In Pittsburgh, there were websites that I found were lacking really good candidates. But yet there were other websites that were really good. So there were, I had options when I was looking. And so, but everybody puts up a profile, there's a picture, maybe multiple pictures. Nobody really knows or what to write, or they're uncomfortable about speaking about themselves. So the profiles don't necessarily reflect who the person truly is. So it's hard to know, is this person real? Is this person a fake? Is this a scammer? Could this be a married person just looking
Right.
to, find somebody to hook up with? Or is this a real, true candidate? And what are they all about?
Okay. And so that's a lot. That is a big change, and it kind of really goes back to what we were saying, that it really streamlines the process of finding the right match, but uh, uh, really provide clarity too. So, um, so now that we've identified what some of the challenges are now in the dating world, you know. Do you also provide tips on how for them to put out their best image? I mean, they're looking at other people's images and their profiles and talking with them. So do you educate them on that too? I'm sure some of that comes from the evaluation you do about who they are. So you develop a plan then based on that?
Yes. When I work with my clients, part of the process is actually making sure that they have appropriate photos. And I do have criteria for that, as well as helping them create the written profile that truly reflects who they are and who they're trying to attract.
That makes a lot of sense too, because I don't know where most people figure out who they are and when they get to a certain age, but to get that in wording too probably is a challenge too. So that's great that you offer that. So of course I have to ask, because I want to see I want to see the proof in the pudding. So you're this expert when it comes to love and relationships. Give us a little insight on yours. I mean, what's your love story?
Well, it's a little bit of a story. So I was raised by a domineering, controlling father. And I met my future husband in high school. Well, we actually met in junior high, but we started dating in high school. And it turns out I did marry him. And he was also a domineering, controlling person. So here I am, left mom and dad's house, moved in with husband, and here we are in the same situation. But there was a difference. He really helped me figure out who I am. And so through my life journey, I did a lot of introspection, a lot of going to therapy, figuring out, where my voice was, who is Barbara, all that stuff. Well, at the age of 39, we have two daughters. He passed away suddenly. So here I was, left as a widow at the age of 39. And the thought in my head was, who's going to love me now? So I went on a journey. And at that time, online was available. So I did go on a journey and I met people, but these were not healthy relationships at all. And then somewhere between 6 months and a year, I had called a friend of my late husband's to do some work. And so he came and he looked at the work and he started calling me about it. And he also started talking personally. And I knew he was divorced. So we created a friendship and eventually actually got into a long-term relationship of 14 years. But guess what? He was domineering and controlling too. As I continued my
Wait, I gotta interject real quick. So how did that make you feel? The second one was like that same thing that you didn't want. Are we leading to the why you started your business then?
Yeah. And at the time, he provided a lot of stability for me, because anybody that's gone through a serious grief process, like losing a spouse, somebody you're extremely close with, it is a traumatic experience. And so he helped me settle down and get back into my real head and pay attention to the business I had at the time and pay attention to my daughters who needed me because they were struggling as well. So as I continued my personal evolution, as that relationship waned, I realized we were not a good mix. He was not supportive of me. And in both of those relationships, I gave up myself and I served them. And as I ended that relationship, I knew what I did want. I wasn't sure how to get it, but I was clear about what I wanted. I had my list. I knew I wasn't necessarily interested in getting married again, but I was interested in being in a solid long-term relationship with somebody who was a giver and kind and paid attention to me and listened to me. And, you know, I would feel supported and so forth. But as I started my dating journey a few months after that relationship ended, what was I doing? I was attracted to and attracting controlling, domineering men. So I'm like, this is not working. So, and I fumbled with this. I couldn't understand why I was having such difficulty attracting the right kind of person. So just by happenstance, I applied for a contest offered by a dating coach, and I won. So she and I got on a phone conversation and I felt heard. I felt understood. You know, all the work I had done, like going to therapists, it was never as honed in as working with a dating coach. So I hired her and we really worked on me first, because what was going on before when I was dating and not having success was that I was showing up needy. And the only people that want a needy woman is a domineering, controlling man.
Wow.
So I had to learn that, and I had to change how I showed up. And how did I change? I changed how I looked at myself. I changed it how I truly loved myself and valued myself. I got to a level of self-love and self-care that I said out loud to myself, if I am going to be alone for the rest of my life, I'm okay with that. And after saying that, which was like about 2 years after working with my dating coach, although we did work together for a year, so it was really a year after, that's when my guy showed up. And I had been frustrated. You know, when you do online dating, it gets frustrating. Conversations don't go anywhere. I probably in those 6 years went on at least 100 first dates, and most of them were duds and a few were okay. And what I saw was, after working with my dating coach, was the level of gentlemen that I attracted got better. So it was like a stepping stone. I just kept moving forward, finding better and better people. And then, but after a while, it was getting frustrating that nothing was happening. So in January of 2018, I got back on after being off of the dating websites for 3 months. I had committed to me for those 3 months, and he showed up. And I messaged him first, and he said, you know, I saw your profile, but I didn't think that you would want to meet me because I don't ballroom dance, because that was one of the things about me, that I do that.
Right.
So my response was, that is not a deal breaker.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was funny that intimidated him enough to not want to, you know, pursue you. But I love the fact that you stated that you got to a point that you knew what you were looking for, you just didn't know how to get it. So I think that's where your services come into place. But then you followed up with, you know, all that self-reflection and learning about yourself, and that's where the life coaching comes in. So I think that's what sets you apart, and maybe I'm wrong, and I'd love for you to add to that. What sets you apart from dating services and, matchmakers and things of that nature is that you're really providing the coaching that helps them identify who they are and what their strengths are, so that they can apply that to the dating services you have. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole process, because the most important thing about everybody's life is the first 7 years of our lives create a foundation for how we live our lives. And now, if it was a healthy 7 years, wonderful. But if it was an unhealthy 7 years, then I help people understand where the things that are happening in their lives, or the people that they're attracting into their lives, reflect what has gone on in their past, and how important it is to recognize those things so that you can understand why things might be happening the way they are. Because when you have an understanding about life and the way things are happening, it helps you understand what we need to do but differently.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's awesome.
I
So
did. Oh, go
go
ahead. I was
ahead.
going to say, I wanted to add, that in my whole life, people have always come to me for advice, which I found very interesting, and I loved it. And I loved helping people. So this became something that I just basically fell into, because I had told my friends, when I find my forever love, I want to teach other people how to do this. Because I found there was so much power in the work I did with my dating coach, that I want other people to feel that power, empowerment for
Right.
themselves.
That's great. So that definitely sounds like your why. I always like to ask everyone I interview, why did you start your business? So I think we got that. Um, I have coined you as an expert within your field. So what's the biggest mistake that you see most often people make?
Rushing in too quickly.
Okay.
So my advice is normally to relax through the process. So even when my forever love and I started communicating, I had a feeling. I really did have this feeling like, oh my gosh, this truly could be the one. There were
Mm-hmm.
things that he talked about and expressed and responded to that I really felt heard. I saw what a big heart he has, and so forth, and what a giver he is. So me being a giver and always giving and not feeling received, this was somebody that I felt might really be a good possibility. And so I stayed even with my emotions. I didn't get too excited. I didn't start the what ifs.
Mm-hmm.
One of my friends said to me, she goes, "Oh, so you didn't start picking out China patterns after your first meet?" I said, absolutely no. I was totally relaxed about it. In fact, I actually met somebody else right after his and my first meet, because you just never know.
Right.
I encourage people sort of serial date, because you just don't know who's out there. So, but at, that
Serial date.
other
I'm sorry, I have to
person,
laugh at
yeah,
that.
and that other person, although he seemed like he could be a good person, he wasn't a
Mhm.
right fit for me. So,
Right.
my guy and I, we started dating and so forth. And after about 6 weeks to 2 months, that's when we sat down and had a serious conversation about where this is going and how we were feeling. And that's when I got excited.
Nice, nice. Oh, that's an all moment. And I'm glad we're doing this interview because it's just before Valentine's Day, and I thought it was just so appropriate because Valentine's Day is all about being with your loved one, finding love, being loved. So, if you're not in that position, then I'm glad we're providing this information so people can get to that point. So, um, I have to ask too, what are some key points that should be in a relationship? I think some people don't know that too. I mean, I know there's a lot, but what are the maybe the top three things that should be in a relationship that people can, you know, think about because maybe they don't have that? What would be the top three things?
To be valued, respected, and honored.
Oh,
And the reason why I say that is that, you know, we can get into a relationship and then we don't know who they really are. You know, look at all the, we'll say, TV movies of the abuser, you know, be it mental abuse, physical abuse. They wine and they dine the person, but then all of a sudden their true self shows up and they do something physical or verbal to that person. And then they, you know, like send them flowers, wine and dine them again to bring them back. Well, it's important to recognize that we deserve to be treated well all the time. You know, we're not going to make everybody happy all the time, and the other person isn't going to make us happy all the time. We get to learn to make ourselves happy. And by knowing who you are and feeling strong and powerful as an individual allows you to be able to see when somebody is not aligned with you. So the honoring and so forth, that's very important. Feeling aligned with another person is extremely important. And being able to have open and honest communication about any subject. I would say those are the three top important details.
That's powerful too. When you said all three of those, that just sent goosebumps, all over me. But, it's true because it feels good when you are in a relationship that has that. So I encourage everybody to search for that. But I've always said too, I felt that a relationship is a partnership. So when you have two people working towards the same commitment of giving that to each other, it feels good, so everybody should be looking for that. We have a few minutes, and so I'd like to follow up with a funny story just to give a little insight about who you are as a person. So I want you to tell me your funniest dating story, the one that didn't go well. I want to know that one. I didn't prepare you for that.
Okay. All right, let me think. So let me think about a funny one. I could think about some dating stories. I'm not sure how funny they are though, but,
okay.
But it did teach me something.
Okay.
Because I will tell you, every experience, even the duds of first meets, I learned something from each one.
Okay.
And so there were some first dates, about 3 of them, where even though we met in public places, the gentleman felt that they had permission to touch me. Inappropriate touching.
Oh.
Yeah. So, I immediately got up and left. And they were shocked, of course, because they're not used to women being in control. These are those domineering, controlling men that I was talking about. And, this was before the Me Too movement came out. And so I do warn my clients, to be careful. Don't ever go anywhere with anybody in their own vehicle. Always go to a first meet all by yourself and go, take yourself home and just be really cautious. As women, we have to be extremely careful. So funny, I'm not really sure, but I will tell you, I've met a lot of very interesting people, and even so, some of them I'm still friends with.
Okay. Well, that's good too, that you not only perfected the process and develop a relationship with your your future loved one, but also you continue relationships with the ones that didn't make the cut. So that's a that gives some insight to your skill. So if people wanted to get hold of you, what would be the best way to get hold of you? What's your web address, or do you have a Facebook page? What do you have going on that people can connect with?
All of the above. So I do have a website, and the website is www.barbarai.Klein, just like it's spelled on the screen, but with the letter I in between, .com. And if they go there, there's actually a free gift they can obtain. It's called How to Create a Scroll Stopping Profile. It's 5 little videos that give you some basic instructions, just as I do with my clients, on how to make a profile that will hopefully get somebody to stop scrolling and stop on you.
Wow. That's a great gift right there. Everybody needs that.
I do have a Facebook page. It's called The Best You Barbara Klein. And there's interviews on there, great quotes, different types of information, and so forth. So that's another way to connect with me. I am on Instagram. I am on Twitter, although I'm not on Twitter very much. And I am on Clubhouse. And so, yeah, I'm findable.
So you're all over the social media, which is good, because no matter which channel you like to use, they'll be able to find you. So thank you, Barbara, for your time and educating us on how to find our love by being the best that we can be. And so we can find our special person out there just in time for Valentine's Day. So thank you again for educating us, and I encourage everybody to follow Barbara. She's definitely unique, and she's dedicated too. She's very passionate about what she does. So she's ready to help you find your loved one. Please share this story, visit her website, and that's the best way you can support this show and also this small business owner. Thank you again.